having so many people in the room. That was amazing. That was so amazing. So hello everyone, and welcome to this month's Music Bar None. Quite a while ago, I read somewhere, so it must be true, that Francis Drake invented the mojito, and ever since then I've been dying to use that as an excuse to do a Music Bar None, because what could be better than playing Elizabethan music and sipping on a mojito? And today I thought this would be the perfect moment because it's the last one in season 4. We've come to the end of season 4. It's allegedly summer, even though the weather outside is rather cold and grey. So actually maybe it's fitting, it's like an English summer. And so over the course of the next hour, we're going to be deep diving into the shenanigans all about Francis Drake, finding out who he was, what he did, playing some music that is loosely and tenuously connected to him. And we're going to have a very special cocktail because, spoiler alert, of course he didn't invent the mojito, but allegedly it is possible that he created an even cooler cocktail called El Drake, which I will tell you about later on. Ooh. We practiced that beforehand. So actually, who was Francis Drake? I must admit, even though I'm English and he's obviously kind of part of my history and my heritage, I didn't really know much about him. We're not taught a lot about him and that part of history. When I was a child, I wonder why, but I knew he was kind of connected to Elizabeth I, and I knew that he was sort of a sailor, an explorer. I vaguely knew that he had gone round the world, but my main reference point was an episode of Blackadder 2, where he turns up with a potato, and they all try and eat a raw potato, and they almost cut off his head because this potato is so unappetizing. So I kind of thought it would be a really fun episode with funny stories about this sailor, seafaring adventures, but as I was doing my research, I discovered he was actually a bit of an arsehole. He was a really crazy, bloodthirsty, greedy bastard who rampaged around the entire world, just looting, pillaging, setting ships and ports on fire, stealing slaves, stealing gold. He was really rogue. And in fact, I kind of know him as an explorer, but he was basically a pirate. But because he had the support of Queen Elizabeth, she was using him to do all the dirty work, to kind of fight against the Spanish, but in an unofficial way, and steal all the gold for the English coffers. He wasn't referred to as a pirate, but a privateer, and that was then okay. And I will be more chatting about this whole thing a bit later over cocktails, and we can try and just, I think it's always fascinating in history how the same events get trickled down, and we absorb different histories according to, where we've grown up and what cultures we're part of. So we'll be kind of looking into that over a cocktail in the middle. But first of all, let's talk about the music you're about to hear. We are going to start with an Ave Maristella by William Byrd. And that's because William Byrd was one of the most famous composers in the court of Elizabeth I. And Ave Maristella, as you can tell by the name, it's a Latin hymn referring to the Virgin Mary as the star of the sea. And it was very traditional for sailors and people going on long journeys to say this prayer or to sing the chant of the prayer before making their journey to get good omens over them. So I thought it was a fitting way to start today. We're talking about a sailor. I'm going to invite Jed and Doron and Henry to come and sing Byrd's Ave Maristella for us.
Ave Maristella,
thing that Francis Drake was very famous for was his battles against the Spanish. There was really back and forth the entire time. There were some very official battles, like the Spanish Armada, and then a bit later the English Armada. But there was also constant skirmishes up and down the coast of Spain itself, but also in the Caribbean and on the mainland in Central and South America, where there was this constant back and forth skirmishing between the English and the Spanish, with Francis Drake as the main character. So originally, I had the idea of doing an Ave Maristella battle and pitting an English composer version of the Ave Maristella with a Spanish composer version of the Ave Maristella. And I thought it would work because most of the time, composers use the very famous chant as the basis for their Ave Maristella. But in this case, in Bird, I don't know if the musicians in the audience, I don't know if you noticed, but the Ave Maristella is never quoted. It's a completely fresh composition just using the text. So I kind of gave up on that idea, but even so, I wanted to show both sides of the coin. You just heard an English Ave Maristella. We're now going to do an Ave Maristella by Victoria, who was a very famous Spanish composer. And I really love this piece because it really digs deep on the chant. Not only are the odd verses the chant itself, the even verses are set polyphonically with three or four voices, but the tenor voice is 100% the chant melody, just set with a rhythm that fits with what's going on all around. So we're going to perform that now, and I'm even kind of pedagogically and musically showing that even more, because this tenor line with the chant in it is going to be sung by the lovely tenors in the room, and the cantors, altos and the basses are going to be played instrumentally, so you have no excuse not to be able to follow the plain chant. So, yeah, let's go. wasn't fighting the Spanish. He was going on these huge, epic, round-the-world voyages. He was the third person, I think, to do a circumnavigation of the globe by boat. And I recently read somewhere that when the first spaceship went up to the moon, the Voyager 1, they pressed a special LP of musical, cultural highlights of the last centuries. And they included a piece by Holborn, who was a court composer of Elizabeth and was very famous for his instrumental music. And they pressed a piece by him called The Fairy Round. I think it's played by like Monroe and all his people. And that is on the LP that went to the moon. And I kind of felt like when you go off on a world circumnavigation of the world thing, it's a bit like going up to the moon. So therefore, the next I have to find reasons somehow. So the next thing is going to be a recorder consort, and we're going to play 3 pieces by Holborn, 3 dances, and we're going to finish with the Fairy Round. And just to get the nautical feeling. Right, so now we've reached the cocktail moment, so I suggest maybe we could open some windows and have some air. Oh, I didn't realise. The unceremonious veiling of the cocktail. So, here we have a magic potion. It's called the El Draque. Sorry for my Spanish pronunciation. So Francis Drake didn't invent the mojito, but there is a very strong legend, and I really say legend, that he did invent this cocktail. There's a story that in 1586 a lot of his sailors fell ill, and so he sent his physician off the boat onto the mainland to talk with some people there to see if they have any tips for medicine. And the physician brought back limes and mint and a special bark from a tree called, again, excuse the pronunciation, I've got no idea how you really say it, Chuachuahuasi tree. There's this bark which is meant to, it cures all evils and is also an aphrodisiac as well, just for like. And so the physician came back. They mixed it together with something called aquadiente, which was a forerunner of rum, added some sugar, and magically all the sailors got better after drinking this concoction. So, and then apparently this kind of lived on as a tonic, and it slowly kind of evolved into a cocktail, and then eventually morphed into a mojito. But today we have really the original version. There is in here lots of limes, lots of mint, and even though I found some of this famous bark on Etsy and I ordered some and it said it would arrive by June the 1st, shock, it didn't. So we have to meet again and try the version. And also what's interesting, obviously in 1586 they didn't have ice. So it's really just, this is it. This is the potion. And I'm going to invite my friend Molly to come and join me to sip this.
Wow. Oh. All right, what do we have today? Cheers, everybody.
To Francis Drake.
Happy like limes.
I'm missing the bark.
I feel better already.
And I'm missing ice, but yes, we can doctor it later.
Let's go set fire to some boards.
Yes. So the reason I've invited Molly to come and join me is that the other day I was at her house, and I was talking about music by none, and she was like, Francis Drake, but like all these light bulbs went on because
I'm from a part of the world, and it wasn't Francis Drake, it was always Sir Francis Drake, because it was Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, Sir Francis Drake High School down the street, Sir Francis Drake this, that, the Domino's Pizza was at the Sir Francis Drake Mini Mall. Because I grew up on the west coast of the United States, near San Francisco, where there's a little bay, and it is the Drake's Bay, and that is where this great and virtuous explorer who did so much to make the maps complete and everything, this explorer, Sir Francis Drake, what a great guy. He like hung out there for a season or something and fixed his boat. So nobody knows exactly where he landed, and this was kind of the magic of the thing. But somewhere there's like Sir Francis Drake's treasure, and it's Sir Francis Drake
Sir
too.
Francis Drake, okay.
So anyway, that was my history with.
And it was just really fascinating because we were also with another friend of ours called Aurea, who's Spanish, and as soon as I mentioned this name, her eyes were like, that's pirate! Because
stealing everything from our boats.
because she really had a completely different connection to this name. In her history, he's this terrible person that was, setting fire to ports and stealing ships and all sorts of things. And
being paid to do it.
And being paid to do it, yes.
And it was really interesting, like where we all come from with these starting points approaching historical figures. If it was some random childhood memory, or the line that you're told, as you're approaching history, growing up through it, and I think it's really interesting because the experiences that I have had with Sir Francis Drake, I think even the people that are maybe 10, 15 years younger than me, they don't have Sir Francis Drake High School anymore. And they don't have the big statue of Sir Francis Drake. He has been revisited, I think. And I don't know what the high school is called now, I really don't care. But it's in the space of only a few years, where it's possible to reinvent our own stories, even if we were, marinated in them. And I wonder how your experience with these historical figures has changed as you've done so much Victorian music and as you've done so much really deep dive work with Renaissance music.
Well, the thing is, I begin to notice that we have a very whitewashed, literally, version of our history. There's this big chunks that never even get mentioned. We did a lot of the Romans and a lot of the Tudors, but again, also in a very kind of simplified way. And the whole colonial past and the whole, empire, it's actually, in a way, it's almost like a myth to me because, somehow it's what's whispered in the air, but we've never studied it, and we definitely don't look at the impact and the consequences and all the blood that's on our hands. So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like having a physical connection always changes things. And the connection that I had with Sir Francis Drake was very much a physical one because we were we had spent time in exactly the same place, like over there, like that tree or that rock or something. Oh, that rock, he knows it, I knew it, we have that in common. Whatever he was pillaging, that's not such a concern. But for example, with the Roman stories, you grew up in a space where there were, Roman rocks lying around.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly didn't.
It was normal, yeah.
And so I think that we got a lot of the mythology of these things, like, oh yes, there was the Greeks, that was the thing, chapter 14, and there were the Romans, that was like chapter 15, And when you come here, living here, Basel, and you've been living here almost now. What is it now?
Let's skip up. Not quite half my life, but...
Yeah, but then I feel like, okay, good, we have Augusta down the street, it's the same kind of connection, like, oh yeah, they probably also swam in the Rhine. Not today, no.
Yeah, yes.
Anyway, so that's
Anyway.
It's nice to live these stories, especially here in the FREIBAD.
Yes.
Which has changed a lot over the years.
It's changed a lot.
What's this about?
For those who haven't been here before, normally there's lots and lots and lots of alcohol behind, which is why this music bar none makes sense. Now we're in a library.
Library bar none.
Anyway, and this is one of the reasons why the second half of our program is a little bit more melancholy because of all these things that we've been discussing. And I think it's time to invite the next people to join me.
Woo! Next people.
perform two. Actually, where should I start? Before the cocktail, you heard a recorder consort, and the idea of consorts was very popular in the Renaissance. The idea of the same sound world and the same instrument, but going from very small to much larger. You had viol consorts, recorder consorts, crumhorn consorts, shawm consorts. You know, everything under the sun, consort. And as a abwechslung to that, you also had mixed consorts where they would throw lots of different instruments together to play polyphonic music. And that's what we have here. We have a mixed consort with double harp. You never knew you knew it, you never knew you needed it in your life, but every piece needs to have two harps. And floating over the top we have a douçaine, which is a quiet shawm, and a traverse flute. And we're going to perform two in nomines, which had originally a sacred setting. It comes out of a mass setting by John Taverner, and there's a small part towards the end, a Benedicam, I can't actually remember to be honest, but like there's a Benedicam, sort of Bene Domino something or other, including the words in nomine Domino, I guess, yeah? See, two cocktails and I'm already. And this setting was so beautiful that it started to have a life of its own. It was taken out of the contact of the mass and often performed instrumentally, especially with viol consorts. And then loads of people like jumped on the bandwagon. And it's written in a way that the plain chant still exists in one line, in the line I'm going to play. And then there's another 3, 4, 5 voices added. And yeah, it's really an English phenomenon, and they just went crazy for this in nomine thing. And you had loads of viol concerts, especially sitting around just playing in nomines for their pleasure. So we're going to perform two. The first is by Thomas Wilkes, or Welks, I'm not entirely sure how you say his name. He was really a drunkard. There's many references to him turning up to choir practice drunk and not handing in a composition when he was meant to because he was drunk, so I thought that was very fitting after the cocktail. And then the second piece is someone called John Baldwin, and he's so obscure there's not even a Wikipedia page on him. But the music is really special. I think you'll enjoy it. I'll tune to check I have the right note. Just keep, everywhere I go, can you just like walk Thank you. Should I move it closer to where high tech. It's very I'm going to invite two people to join us. The first is Amy, because she's going to sing very beautifully over the top of this, of us. And also Phillip, because Phillip found a really exciting and cool piece. Well, yeah. A special piece. A special piece.
Credit for it.
Yes.
I didn't discover it, but
well, you know, we have
I suggested it to
you. We have a loose time of discovery at this point in time.
Should I just?
Go
I find this. Sorry, I just very discreetly throwing my notes there to pretend that I'm just speaking from my heart. I find this a super fascinating piece, and it's a very interesting, like, unique find, and it goes perfectly into the story, or what you were talking about before, about the colonialism story, and also Francis Drake, who was a lot in South America, burning docks and boats and killing Spanish people and other people, native people, etc. So, a little background information. The Inca Empire existed in South America for almost 140 years, 1438 to 1572, when it was obviously conquered by the Spanish. And there it was a very interesting type of society that had no currency, no money, no writing system, but it did have an official language, which was the Quechua language, which existed since long before that and is still in existence today, and was finally granted official language status in Peru in 1975. Back in the day of Mr. Drake and others. Sir Drake, yes. It was, by the Spanish conquerors, it was tolerated and even used. They learned it. In 1560, the first Spanish person wrote a grammar method of the Quechua language so that the Spanish could learn to understand I don't know, but impose their their culture on the locals better. And one of the foremost people in this sense was Juan Pérez Bocanegra. We don't know when he was born, but he died in 1645. And he was an expert of the Quechua language. He was a Franciscan friar, of course, so he was using it to teach, let's say, the locals about Christianity and Catholicism. So to those who don't know Peru, Lima was founded in 1535 by the Spanish as a coastal capital. Before that, until the Inca Empire was destroyed, the Inca capital was Cusco, up in the mountains. And Bocanegra worked first in Lima as a Latin teacher, and then he got a job in Cusco at a church there, where he was, among other things, a choir book corrector. So he also knew something about music, we can assume. And in 1631, he published. First, the interesting thing, he had a conflict. Sorry, I try to keep it short, but I find it so fascinating. He had a conflict, long-standing conflict with the Jesuits over the particularities of how to translate Christian writings into the Quechua language, where the Jesuits were in favor of loaning words from Spanish, whereas Bocanegra preferred to use the rich language of the natives to help them understand the Christian writings. So they had a long fight about this, which apparently the Jesuits won when their position was made official at the Third Council of Lima in 1582 to 83. But Bocanegra still disagreed, and he kept doing his thing. And in 1631, he published Ritual Formulario e Institución de Curas, which was a treatise in Spanish and Quechua about ritual texts and how to use them and stuff. Interesting thing here, we find in Europe books from this time where you have, for example, Latin and German side by side. So that's not uncommon. But in this case, he did not put them directly side by side. He made sure the layout was a little bit more ambiguous, because then it wasn't so obvious to the Jesuits which translation he had used of the Spanish. In this treatise, there is one single piece of notated music, and it's the first, I think it's the first time piece of music is printed in the New World. And it is this piece that we are going to hear now. Hanak Pachap Kusi Nuinen. Kusi Kuinen? Sorry, my Quechua is a bit rusty. So it was written in Quechua, in this treatise. We don't know if Bocanegra was the composer, or if he had an apprentice, or it was a local or somebody who wrote the music itself, but this is like, in this treatise of Spanish and Quechua text, you find suddenly, oh, here's a piece of music. Let's hear what it sounds like.
Thank you, Phillip. Brilliant. Brilliant. Now, for the final piece today, I'm actually going to invite some audience participation, if so desired. Henry, there's a pile of the introitus in front of you. Could you throw some in that direction and throw some that in direction? If any of you sitting here, because I know there's many musicians, feel free to take it and sing along. It's not really a very jolly piece to sing along to, but I think it will be a very beautiful way to end this. We've spoken a lot about the terrible things that Francis Drake did. One of the first things he was involved with as a young man, going off, leaving the family, was to work on the first English slave trading ships, which involved going and basically robbing a Spanish ship full of slaves, taking it across the Atlantic and selling for a great profit. He then spent his whole life setting fire to ports and ships and villages and being incredibly bloodthirsty all around the entire world. So to finish, we're going to sing the beginning of a requiem for all the people who suffered at the hands of Francis Drake. So if you've rehearsed this piece, come and stand on this side of the bar. If you're reading it for the first time, stay in your chair. What was the human piece called?
Oh
just want to say really a huge thank you today. As you saw, so many musicians were here. Thank you, every one of you, for all your time and energy and effort.
Thank you!
It's been I'm going to go on a little music barn on holiday, and there'll be nothing over the summer, and then we'll see what happens in the autumn, what sort of format happens, where it will be, how it will be. So just I'll keep you posted. And for now, I'm just going to say goodbye and thank you to everyone, both there, like behind the camera, and also here in the room. So thank you.